Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Statesmanship Project. In this episode, we're going to dive into something that's probably a little bit more controversial than the equation for program success. It's a little off topic for the equation for program success, but I think it's necessary. And it gives you a sampling of kind of where I want to go with this channel, with this project. And it gives you an understanding of how you need to question everything. Because what I'm about to do is destroy, might be a little bit strong, but I'm going to sow some serious doubt into modern nutrition science. So our understanding of nutrition science is based off of the assumption that food gives us energy. And in order to calculate that energy, they calculate calories by using what is called a bomb calorimeter. And so how is this determined? I'm going to read this from MSD Manual, the consumer version, msdmanuals.com. It says, food labels contain the number of calories per serving, but how is that number determined? The answer is surprisingly simple. The food is burned. A sample of the food is placed in an insulated, oxygen-filled chamber that is surrounded by water. This chamber is called a bomb calorimeter. The sample is burned completely. The heat from the burning increases the temperature of the water, which is measured, and which indicates the number of calories in the food. For example, if water temperature increases by 20 degrees, the food contains 20 calories. This method of measuring calories is called direct calorimetry. Now, does that sound to you in any way like anything our bodies do with the food? First of all, there's no oxygen in our stomach when the food is quote-unquote consumed. Second of all, there's no combustion. We're not burning food inside of ourselves. We don't get nearly warm enough to do that. The food's brought up to body temperature. If it goes hotter than that, we have a problem. We end up with a fever because our body's trying to kill something within the food or purge our bodies of something. Or as Tom Cowan talks about, liquefy the gels in order to purge our system of something that is toxic. And thirdly, the food is not completely consumed. You pass it as waste. So I'm not even convinced that we get any energy from food at all. In fact, I doubt we do. I think the purpose of food is to cleanse the body, to pull material waste out of the body that is generated through tissue repair and tissue growth. And this is why it's so important for children to eat an abundance of food, because as they grow, they generate a lot of material waste that needs to be carried out through the digestive system. And if you don't have enough food, your body doesn't receive the signal that it can grow, and so it is stunted. This is why children in North Korea don't grow as big as children in South Korea. They don't have enough food to stimulate the purging process that is necessary to facilitate adequate growth, or adequate waste removal for the growth. So what we need to do in order to understand this is conceptualize or reconceptualize our relationship with food. Because if food doesn't give us energy, then what purpose does it serve? And how much of it do we actually need to consume? Now, it makes sense that the more active you are, and if you are lifting weights in an effort to generate tissue, more muscle, your body is going to create material waste. This is the same as if you're building a house. You have a bunch of 8-foot 2x4s, but not every 2x4 is going to be 8 foot long when it's installed. You end up with drop pieces, little pieces of waste here and there. You end up generating a tremendous amount of waste when you build a new building. And these are just drop pieces and waste pieces of material that aren't used, and they have to be gotten rid of. I would say the same is true in structuring your body. And the more damage you do, the more tissue you're trying to grow, the more of this waste that you have, so you need to eat more in order to facilitate that cleansing. However, if you eat too much, then you get fat because the body can't get rid of all of the excess food. Likewise, if you eat food that does not pass through your system cleanly and gets stuck to the body, I'm thinking of dairy products, cheeses, meats, these things that want to putrefy or get clogged into your body, they make you fat. So we need to avoid these things as they don't pass through our system freely. Now the next thing to understand is the idea that food creates the structure of our body. You hear all the time when you're weightlifting you need to have like 1 gram of protein per pound body mass or something to that effect. Well, if this was the case, then the most muscular animals on the planet would be all grass. Look at ox and bulls. The animals are huge, and what do they eat? They eat grass, they eat stray, they eat straw, they eat hay, because those are words. And they grow massively muscular, which shows to me that the relationship between food you eat and structure of your body is not related. Your body develops based on the stimulus that is placed upon it. So if you strengthen your body, you will get stronger. If you lift weights, you are putting a stimulus on your body that requires it to grow muscle, and therefore your body will respond by growing muscle. But if you're not eating enough food to purge the body of the waste that is generated from the tissue growth, then you won't grow the muscle as adequately. The same is true when you observe people that are on steroids. They will grow regardless of what they eat, which goes to show you that the food you eat has I would argue almost no relationship to the structure of your body, with the exception of the amount of fat on your body. If you're eating a bunch of food that your body can't process out cleanly, it gets stuck, and that's what makes you fat, because the body can't structure the gels properly, and it puts it into a less structured system, which would be fat. My speculations. So we want to understand this relationship more clearly. And I think in order to understand this, you have to run a series of experiments, because you would want to weigh the amount of food that someone is eating, and then you would also have to weigh the amount of stool that they process out and the amount of urine that they process out. Because if these are equivalent, then we know that the body is not absorbing anything from the food. And if the waste coming out of the body is less than the inputs, then the body is absorbing something. And if the waste coming out of the body is greater than the inputs going in, then it's pulling something from the body. And of course, the environment in which the body exists needs to be considered as well. And the activity level and the demands and stimulus being put on the body need to be taken into consideration as well for the development of these programs or these experiments. And certainly the food you eat is meaningful, because otherwise people would never get scurvy, for example, if they didn't have vitamin C. So there is something in food that your body is absorbing and needs. But the idea that it needs a certain amount of protein or a certain amount of carbohydrates or a certain amount of fat seems to me less than convincing, because your body does not, just as the water you drink doesn't structure the water in your tissues, the food you eat doesn't structure the water in your tissues. And that's all we are, is structured water, and just structured different ways. So the food, I think, can have an informative impact on the body, and there certainly can be vitamins and minerals within the food that fuel or help facilitate the proper functioning of the body. But at the end of the day, the amount of food you eat does not give you energy. And another argument to that is the idea that, let's say you're supposed to eat 3 times a day, right? That means if you go more than a day without eating 3 times, you would end up without energy, right? If every 3 hours or 4 hours you need food stimulus to give you energy, if you went 24 hours or 48 hours, 72 hours, you went 168 hours, a full week without food, you'd be dead. You'd have no energy. But you find for anybody that's fasted for that period of time, you tend to gain energy as you progress through the fast, because your body has the opportunity to clean itself out, and then it operates more efficiently because it's not processing anything through the digestive system. And this, I think, is helpful too, to understand that your body conducts energy from the environment, not from the food you eat. And the food you eat provides stimulus so that the body can go about repairing the tissues and growing the tissues, but it doesn't provide you with energy. I hope this makes sense. Certainly something to think about and contemplate on your own. If you have questions or thoughts, comments, concerns, ideas, observations of your own, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you are enjoying this content. And until next time, have a good day.